It's finally happening. This has been a really long offseason for the Seattle Seahawks, and I think most of it has to do with the quiet. Because you haven't heard much from Russell Wilson specifically outside of the interview that he did on the Dan Patrick Show and his interview with a gaggle of reporters after the Walter Payton Man of the Year award ceremony. We haven't heard a lot from Pete Carroll. In fact, we've heard nothing from Pete Carroll. We haven't heard a lot from John Schneider. In fact, we've heard nothing from John Schneider. Essentially, all this offseason that we have heard are leaks coming out of Russell Wilson's court, specifically, I would imagine, Mark Rodgers, through various media personalities, ranging from Brandon Marshall on Fox Sports 1 to Colin Cowherd, among many, many others. We're finally going to hear from Pete Carroll and John Schneider Wednesday at noon. Oh, my goodness gracious. It's about time. And I got to say, credit to them, because the way that they played this offseason, it worked. It feels like everything is all hunky-dory between the Russell Wilson court and the Seattle Seahawks. Everything's back on the same page. At least, outwardly. The optics are better. But they are going to get asked a lot, I would imagine, a lot of questions about just the entirety of this offseason. Their relationship with Russell Wilson, if they felt pressed to add to the offensive line. And those are the questions that I would ask at that noon press conference on Wednesday. First off, have you spoken with Russell Wilson? That's an easy one that they can probably dodge. Are you guys on this same page as far as what you want out of a championship team? Did you feel pressure to go after an offensive lineman like Gabe Jackson because of the noise that you were hearing? Do you still feel pressure to find ways to make sure that Russell Wilson sticks around? And I would imagine that both Pete Carroll and John Schneider would say, we want to have Russell Wilson around long term. And why wouldn't they, even with all of the annoyances of this offseason? And I'm in the same boat. I mean, I just found some of the ways that he went about things this offseason tiresome, but I still want him here. I think everyone should want him here. You're not going to do better at quarterback. At least you're unlikely to. Extremely unlikely to. So I'm very curious as to what answers we actually get out of them. Pete Carroll's answers will probably be optimistic. I do think John Schneider is good enough at talking around the difficult questions as well. Another question I would want to ask, Aldon Smith, why the risk? And obviously, hindsight's 20/20, but it is interesting that given that the Seahawks said, I think back, and Matt Calkins has a piece about this in the Seattle Times, back in 2012, I think it was John Schneider who said that when it comes to domestic violence, they don't tolerate it, but they have brought players in who at the very least had allegations against them, whether it's Jaron Reed or Frank Clark or a couple other players who off the top of my head I don't remember. Obviously, we saw this past offseason with Chad Wheeler, who was not on the team anymore, and now Aldon Smith is the most recent. And I think as Calkins closed out his column, sometimes talent does trump the moral side of things and the looking rosy and sunshiny and having the best possible PR for yourself. But those are questions that I would like to see answered.